This is video number 2 for Microsoft Access Module 2 in the Shelly Cashman book on Microsoft Office 365. We left off at the middle of page 2-12. So now we're going to look at the section on using criteria for a field that is not included in the results. So sometimes you may want to retrieve some data from a table or tables in a database, and the criteria is important as far as selecting the records, but you don't really need to see the criteria in the results. So you can turn that off, and that's what we're going to take a look at right now. So number 1 says open the owner's query in design view. So right click on it. Remember, if you double click on it, it'll run the query. Choose design view, and we'll get something that looks like this. I'm going to drag this down a little bit, make this a little taller so we can see all the fields. And we want 813 in the postal code field. So the criteria row is right here, and we want 813 star. So what that will do is it'll retrieve any postal code that begins with 813. We've got room for 9 characters in our postal code, but we're only using 5 in the actual data that we've input. So this will give us anything from 81300 all the way up to 81399. So it doesn't matter what the last digits are as long as the first 3 are 813. It'll pull out the record for us. Now, right now, it's going to retrieve 6 fields: owner first name, owner last name, street, city, state, and postal code. But we can turn those checkboxes off, even if it's one that is part of the criteria. So we're saying look at the postal code field, and if it starts with 813, select the record and retrieve the first name, last name, street, city, and state for that owner, but don't display the postal code. We know that starts with 813, but we don't need to see it. Okay, let's go ahead and run this query. Click on the exclamation mark up here on the top. And it looks like we have 2 owners whose postal code starts with 813, and this should match what you see in the book at the bottom of page 8-13. Let's go back to design view, flip over to page 2-14. Now we're going to create a parameter query. A parameter query is a query where you get some input from the user that will help you decide what values you want to retrieve from the table. So we're going to allow the user to enter the owner state. So that's going to be criteria on the owner state. So let's go down here. And the way this is implemented in Access is a little awkward, but this is how it works. Square bracket, enter CO for Colorado or UT for Utah, and another square bracket. Okay. If you put the criteria in square brackets, it is not considered part of the criteria. Actually, what it is it's a prompt that will pop up on the screen when you run the query. And then whatever the user types in will be used in place of the prompt. So the text that we just typed in is going to pop up when we run the query. There'll be a dialog box and a space below where we can type in either CO or UT. And if we type in CO, then it's going to continue running the query with CO as the owner state criteria, and we'll get everybody from Colorado. If we type UT in the dialog box and click on OK, it's going to find all of the owners who are from Utah, and it'll use UT as the criteria for the owner state. Okay, so anything you put in square brackets is basically a placeholder for a parameter that you're going to type in from the keyboard. So it lets you create queries that are more flexible because you don't have the state built in. So we don't have to create one query for Colorado, and another one for Utah. And if we had a customer base that was all over the United States, we don't have to create 50 queries, one for each state. We can create one query and let the user type in the parameter representing the name of the state, and that's all we need. So let's give this a try. Let's go ahead and click on Run up here. And sure enough, what we typed in square brackets appears here. That's the placeholder. And now what we're going to type in to replace the placeholder is CO. And again, it's not case sensitive, so you can do uppercase or lowercase. Go ahead and click on OK. It'll run the query, and it'll return everybody from Colorado. Okay, let's go back to our View tab, and let's run it again. And this time we're going to type in UT. Click on OK or hit the Enter key, and now we're going to get everybody from Utah. Now let's go to the top of page 2-15. We've already tried Colorado and we've tried Utah. Let's go to number 4 and click on File. In Backstage View, click on Save As. We want to take the query that we just created and save it as an object in the database. Click on Save As. when it asks for the name, we're going to change the name to owner state query. Go ahead and click on OK. Close the query. And now we're at the bottom of page 2-15 using a parameter query. So we're going to open the navigation pane. It's already open. If it's not open, it'll look like this, and just click on the little arrow to open it up. Right-click the owner state query. Click Open. This is the same as running the query. Prompt should appear in a dialog box. Type in UT, uppercase or lowercase, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and hit enter, click on OK, and we get everybody from Utah. So you can go over here and you can right click on it and you can choose open. Open means it'll run the query. You can also, I'm going to close it right now. You can also double click on it and it'll run the query. Let's cancel it. And you can also, if you're in design view, you can click on the exclamation mark. So there's 3 ways to run a query in Access. Now let's go to the middle of page 2-16. We're going to use a number in our criterion. So close the navigation pane. First of all, close the query. Close the navigation pane. Click Create on the ribbon. We want Query Design. We want the treatment cost table. So we got to click on Tables over here. It's still on Queries. So double click on Treatment Cost. And all of the fields that are in the treatment cost table should appear in your window up here. Click Close to remove Add Tables. Make this tall enough so that you can see all the fields. We want to select the fields that the query is supposed to retrieve for us. We want treatment number, so just double click. We want treatment, animal type, and cost. So we want basically everything. So we're going to use a number as a query criteria this time. Cost holds a number. We're going to put the number 25 in there. So what we're going to ask for when we run this query is any row that has a treatment cost that is exactly equal to the number 25. Okay, let's go ahead and run it. And it looks like 3 rows are returned. This should match what you see on the top of page 2-17. So we want to save the query as M02Q03. So let's go ahead and click on Close. It'll ask us if we want to save the changes, and we'll say yes. I'm going to call this M02Q03. Click on OK. Now we're at the bottom of page 2-17. We're going to look at comparison operators. So we're going to start a new query using the appointments table. So go up here to Create, go to Query Design, go over to the right here. Again, it's coming up with queries. We want tables. So we want to choose the appointments table. Double click on it. It'll appear over here. Stretch it out a little bit so you can see all the fields. We want the date, time. So date, time, treatment number. Just double click on these. Veterinarian and patient ID fields. And we're looking for ones that occur after a particular date. So our criteria is going to be based on the appointment date column right here. So we go to the criteria field underneath appointment date, and we want greater than 6-30-2021. So greater than symbol 6/30/2021. Greater than, when you're dealing with dates, means a subsequent date, a later date. So this will give us any date that's in this table, the appointments table, that occurs after 6/30/2021. So if it's on July 1st, 2021, or any time later than that, we should get it. Let's flip over to page 2-18. It says run the query. Let's go ahead and run the query. And it looks like we have 2 appointments that are after June 30th, 2021. And if you look at the bottom of page 2-18, you should see the exact same thing that we've got in our query results here. We want to go back to design view. Just click on the little design button up here. By the way, this is something that's unique to Access. It puts pound signs around dates. And the reason it does that is so that it doesn't get mistaken for the value 6 divided by 30 divided by 2021. So to distinguish that from being an arithmetic expression, we put the pound signs in, and that tells Access that we're working with a date. So right now it says greater than. I'm going to backspace over that, and I'm going to choose less than or equal to. And we're going to go ahead and run that. So that'll give us anything that is before July 1st. Let's go ahead and run that. And it looks like we have 3 that are in here before July 1st. And if you check the dates, that checks out. Okay, we're going to save this query. Click on the Save button up here. The name of the query is going to be M02Q04. Click on OK. Close the query. Now we're going to go to page 2-19. We're going to use compound criteria involving AND. The word AND means both. We did another one earlier with the word or means either. So start a new query using the appointments table. So go to Create, Query Design. Again, over here, click on the Tables tab. Double click on Appointments. Stretch it out a little bit so you can see all the field names. We want the following fields: appointment date, appointment time, treatment number, veterinarian, and owner. We want a criteria for the date field greater than 6/30/2021. So here's the date column. Go down here and type in greater than 6/30/2021. Tab out of it and the pound signs will appear. Now go to the veterinarian field over here and put a criteria in. We want B01. Flip over to page 2-20 and let's run the query. Before we run the query though, let's take a look at what we're asking for here. We're asking for it to look at every row in the table and see if this matches. If that matches, then see if this matches. If both of them match, then retrieve the row. If they do not, then do not retrieve the row. So if there's something out there with a date greater than 6/30/2021, but the veterinarian is not B01, it will not retrieve it. If the veterinarian is B01, but the date is not greater than 6/30/2021, then it will not retrieve it. Both of these have to be true, so it's as if they were connected by the word and. So I want to retrieve a record if the appointment date is greater than 6/30/2021 and the veterinarian is B01. So let's go ahead and run this. We get one out there, and that is the appointment date is 10/25/2021. You notice we had two when our criteria was just that the date be greater than 6/30, but now we've got an extra criteria there, and that is that the veterinarian has to be B01. So with both of those true, we only get one record retrieved from the table. So at the top of page 2-20, number 3 says save it. So let's go ahead and click on the save button up here. The name of this query is going to be M02Q05. Click on OK. Go ahead and close it. Now in the middle of page 2-20, we want to use a compound criterion involving OR. So we want to go back to design view. Let's go create, query design. Again, we want appointments. Double click on appointments, stretch it out. We want the appointment date, the appointment time, the treatment number, the veterinarian, and the owner. Okay. Those are the only ones we want. What if you accidentally click on something here that you don't want? I'm going to double click on patient ID, and I've got patient ID down here, and I don't want that. I made a mistake. How do you get rid of it? Well, all you have to do is just go down here and delete the name of the field. So I'm backspacing over it, click someplace else, and the column is gone. So we want to keep the same criteria we had for appointment date here. We want greater than 6/30/2021. And for veterinarian, we want B01. But this goes on the second row for criteria. So everything from the criteria row here on down represents different criteria. If the criteria are all in the same row, then all of them have to be true to select the record. If they're on different rows, then each row is considered as a separate rule by itself. So if it's greater than 6/30/2021, it'll select the record. If it's not, but the veterinarian is B01, it will also select the record. So if either one of these is true, we will pull out the record. So when we had them both on the same line, they both had to be true, and we only got one record returned. Let's go ahead and run this one. And now we get quite a few records. We've got 4 appointments for veterinarian B01, and we have one appointment that is greater than 6/30/2021, and the veterinarian for that one is G01. So if either one of those conditions is true, we're going to select the record. So let's go up here and click on our Save button. Type in M02Q06, click on OK or hit the Enter key. Close the query. Flip over to page 2-22. And the next section is on sorting, so that's probably a good place to stop this video.